What is going on, guys? Welcome back. It is your boy Blaze, and we're here with the start of a new series which we're calling State of the Market. We're hopefully going to be doing episodes each week to cover new content 2K is releasing, what's hot, what's not, filters to use, and all things about the auction house. So I'm really excited to bring this to you guys and give you information as it's coming out, and to help you guys make the most of the auction house. So if you're new to 2K, there's a feature in Myteam called the auction house, which you unlock when you get 30 cards, which is pretty easy to get just from the packs and stuff you get at the start and locker codes and all that. It's a place where you can buy and sell cards, and it's a really effective way to make MT if you know what you're doing. It takes a bit of work to get to that point, but it's certainly worth the effort. And we're going to get into some effective ways a bit later into the video. But before we do that, it's important to really understand some of the basics of how the auction house works. So the first big principle with the auction house, and the goal of what you're trying to do, is buy cards low and sell them high. So whatever way that is, there's a few ways you can do that, which we'll discuss a bit later. But you want to be buying cards cheaply and flipping them for profit, whether that's small profit, large profit. But that's the premise of the auction house, is you want to be getting cards cheaply and selling them for more. The second principle of the auction house that I want to get into is the more time you spend in the auction house, the more effective it becomes. So the longer you spend working it, the better you'll know prices, you'll notice other important things about cards, you'll learn how to be creative and find new filters that other people don't know about. The more you know about the market, the easier it is for you to make profit. And to be able to flip cards and know what cards to be flipping, to be able to predict what filters to be using when, all of those things. The more time you spend in it, the more you're going to get out of it. The third really important thing to know about the auction house is your prices. It's closely linked with the one I just went through, number 2. But the better you know card prices and what cards people are listing up for cheap, the easier it's going to be for you to maximize your profit. So if you can predict what content might be coming out, then it'll help you, because you'll be able to get those cards early and wait for them to spike up, and then you can sell them. And it also helps when you pull cards from packs. If you know your prices, you won't just list them up for a really cheap amount, like an Amethyst Giannis for 2k MT or something. You'll know the value of the cards, you'll know how much you can get for it, and you'll know how to maximize all the MT you can get from packs and cards and everything in the game. The fourth thing I want to get into is that top filters and the most expensive cards aren't always the best way to make MT by sniping. So while the best cards might have the biggest profit margins, they're also likely to be highly contested filters, and you could spend an hour, 2 hours sniping, miss a couple cards, maybe you get one. Instead of using a filter that's underrated and not many people know about, so it's less contested, you can get a card every 2 or 3 minutes and be making less profit, because it all adds up at the end of the day. Profit is profit is profit. I personally really enjoy these underrated filters because there's less people on them, so it's way more relaxed, it's not as sweaty and contested. It also helps you new guys to practice sniping and learn the techniques and the combinations, and just to familiarize yourself and practice and get better and get quicker at sniping, to then be able to use those more competitive filters. So on to the MT making methods. The first one we're going to go through is probably the most common one you'll use, which is sniping. So for those that don't know, sniping is when you're looking for a card with a buy now, like these ones here. So 39.50 is the buy now for this Andre Iguodala. But you're looking for ones that are significantly under the price they're selling for. So this Andre Iguodala is currently selling for 4k, so I'd probably be wanting to snipe around 3.2k, buy anything that pops up. Another example is in my last video in the snipe challenge. I was sniping Ruby Ray Allen cards for between 4 and 5k and selling them for 8k MT. So it can be pretty difficult to begin with, because you have to practice to get quick to buy the card before other people do on the servers. But honestly, practicing is the best way to get better at sniping. But make sure, just like I did, to check your prices before you start sniping a card. So whenever you hop onto a filter, check what the card's prices are that you're likely to see. just so you know what you should be picking up, what you shouldn't be. It also really helps if there's like later on in the year when there's a lot of cards on a filter, because then you know what the cheaper ones are. So yeah, make sure you know your prices, because you can buy a card. There's also a 10% tax on you selling the card as well. So you need to make sure the price you're buying it for is low enough that you're still making profit after you lose 10% of its sale price. And for people that are new to sniping, I'd probably say these couple filters are the best ones to sit on. So as I just set up the sapphire filter, so you go color to sapphire, maximum buyout around the cheapest, which I think is around 1k at the moment. Yep, that's probably already been bought. Yep. But just sit on that and refresh it, and make sure you've checked the prices of cards so you know what they're going for. And yeah, just sit on them and see what you can get. Practice your technique, going over to the card, going down to the buy now, hitting A or X a bunch of times. I know that card's already been bought, I'm just doing it as a demonstration. Another one is just doing that with the ruby filter, which I think is around 2800 MT, if I'm not mistaken. Might be a bit more than that at the moment, might be inflated a little. In fact, it might be more than 3k. Yeah, okay, so around 3300 MT is probably what the ruby filter is sitting at this point. So yeah, and just spam the refresh on that. You don't have to do what you've had to do in the past and change your maximum bid or whatever. You don't have to do that this year. You can just refresh. Keep hitting that search button once you get back. Oops, that's not it. Yeah, so you don't have to refresh the filters like you previously have. You can just spam up the search and keep going until you see cards pop up. It's really important to also be checking what the new challenges are, because those players will get more expensive and can be a good way to make profit. So for instance, today Denver just won game 7 against the Clippers, so there's probably going to be challenges for Denver players tomorrow. So it'd be a really good idea to keep an eye out on these challenges and the dailies that they're putting out. So 3 games with the Heat players, 3 players from the Heat in a triple threat game, because little challenges like that, while they're not for much XP, prices of those cards will inflate a little bit, so they can be good to snipe, to be able to flip cards for a little bit more than you normally would. Yeah, just make sure you're constantly checking these challenges to see what cards people are going to be wanting to get, because everyone's trying to grind for this Pink Diamond Stephen Curry for the season, so plenty of opportunities to make MT by sniping these cards. Another way you can do sniping is what's known as bid sniping. So instead of looking for cards with a buy now, you can be looking for cards with a bid. So for instance, there's Luca. He's selling for around 5k MT at the moment, and there's some that don't even have buy nows that you can bid up to. So if he was going for 5k, I'd probably be bidding no more than like 4,200, because that means that the next person's going to have to bid more than what he's retailing for to be able to make profit on it. You can do that particularly on like pack days. That's really effective, and there's lots of a cheap card. There's lots of cards that will be thrown up, like even cards like this that have a buy now with cheap bid. Some people don't look for that, so you can try and capitalize on that. It's not as effective as trying to snipe cards with a buy now, but it's certainly a little more stealthy way of doing it, and you can get a lot of cards through bid sniping. And certainly a lot of MT that you can make. The next MT making method on the auction house is investing. So I haven't done a huge amount of investing myself in the last couple 2Ks, but I know a lot of people do it, and this year is going to be better than any other year for doing it as well, because there's all these challenges for specific players. So investing is essentially buying a large amount or sniping a large amount of a single card or a few different cards and predicting that their price is going to go up. So for example, teams that are still in the playoffs, so Denver, the Nuggets, Nuggets are really good, Lakers are really good, Celtics are really good, the Heat are really good right now, because it's likely that there's going to be players that have big games and there's going to be challenges and their prices are going to go up. So if you can snipe those cards now, you'll be able to make more MT later. Investing's certainly gonna get better later in the year as well when there's more cards in packs. So, for instance, late in the year, you'll get packs where like the lowest card will be like a ruby or an amethyst that nobody wants because it's not a great card. But there's going to be so many people pulling them that they're just going to be super cheap. So there might be a card that sells for around 1k MT while they're in packs. But if you can buy a bunch of them while they're there and hold on to them for a couple of weeks till they're out of packs, their price might have gone up to 1.5 to 2k MT, which yes, takes a bit longer to get your profit, but it's certainly effective if you do it right and if you're committed to it. You just have to be patient with the prices and wait for them to go up, because generally they'll keep going up and settle as they become more sparse on the auction house. So what many of you have probably been waiting for is what filters should you be using right now. The first one I'm going to go through is a ruby filter. I used it in my last Snipe challenge video. It is the Ruby Ray Allen filter. So you just search up his name, set it to ruby. The maximum buyout, I think he's still around 7k, might be a bit more. Let's see. Yep, he might be up around 8k still. So you just check. Yep, okay, the cheapest is 7,850. So I'm going to set that to 7k. And I'm going to buy anything that pops up. So you just spam the refresh. Buy anything that pops up. I was having a lot of success with this the other day. So there's a lot of cards going up. It's pretty contested, but there's certainly more contested filters at the moment, which we'll get to in a bit. But that's certainly a strong filter you can be using and making a lot of MT, because he is a very popular card at the moment because of his shooting ability. The next filter we're going into is another ruby filter. It's Kenny Smith, who's in these back-to-back packs we got yesterday. He's cheaper than Ray Allen, I'm fairly sure. Yeah, much cheaper. I think he's around like 5k MT at this current point. Might be even less. Yeah, he's less. Okay, he's around 4,400. So I'd probably set it to 3.8k. And once again, just spam the refresh. This is probably a more competitive filter because there's challenges for Kenny Smith at the moment as one of the back-to-back players, as with all of them. So you just got to look out for that you got to be pretty quick to get the player. So make sure you're paying attention and not distracted, because far too many times I've missed snipes because I've been doing something else or on my phone trying to snipe with one hand, and it's just not the way to go. The next filter we're going to go into, which I was using as packs launched last week, is the Amethyst Clutch filter. I managed to snipe a few Kareems on it. I know a lot of people have been able to snipe a lot of Kobe's on it, which he's still selling for a lot. Need to check what the cheapest one is. I haven't looked in a little bit. Probably around 50k. Yep, 50k. So if you set this to 40k, Kareem's the one to watch out for. Like, I probably wouldn't buy Kareem if he's over 40k, just because he is selling for between 45 and 50. But just spam up the refresh. You can see that Amethyst Michael Jordan, the Amethyst Kareem, and Amethyst Kobe, all of which sell for quite a lot at the moment. As you can imagine, they're pretty expensive because they're good cards at the moment. But this is one filter that's very competitive at the moment, but there is a lot of profit you can make on it. So just be aware of that. But onto the next filter. So these next two filters are really the big boy filters at the moment. So we've got the Diamond Small Forward, which you can see Lamar Odom and Larry Bird. They're both over 100k right now. So this is where your biggest profit margins probably are coming from. You just spam up the refresh with the bid on minimum buyout on 500. Prices may drop in the next couple of weeks as more cards come out, but as of right now, this is a good filter if you've got that 100k MT, you're wanting to turn that into more, because there'll be people that are chucking these cards up much cheaper than 100k. The other filter you can do is still diamond filter, but it's the center filter. So you can see Ben Wallace and Hakeem, a larger one. They're both bids at the moment. There are no buy nows, as you can see. But yeah, just spam up that. Spend an hour or two on that, and you might be able to get one or two of them. Use them for the challenges, and then flip them. Make your profit. They're probably the best 2 diamond filters at the moment, because there is that Isaiah Thomas, but he is a buy now. A very high buy now, so you could try and snipe him for like 50, 60k and flip him. Oh, there's also that Jason Kidd too, which I'd forgotten about. But point guards tend to be on the cheaper side, especially when they're short point guards. So that's probably a more unstable filter to use, because their prices are going to change a lot more. But yeah, those 4 or 5 filters are probably the best ones to be using right now. And any current 2020 NBA players from Denver, Lakers, Heat, or Celtics, your best bets for investments to make at the moment. I've got a few sitting around that I picked up over the last couple of weeks, but they're the ones to pick up now and hold on to until their prices go up. And yeah, they're the main ways you can be making MT at the moment. So now on to some tips and tricks for those of you who have used the auction house quite a lot in previous years and are comfortable with what you're doing. These are some more advanced tips that and things I've learned over the last couple of years. The biggest one I've noticed is that there are micro fluctuations in card prices. So when you know a card's price and it's stable, sometimes the price might just dip like 1 or 2k, but within 10 to 15 minutes it can be back up at normal, which is something I've noticed happens at set times of the day normally. But knowing this means you can get much more MT profit than just listing it up for the cheapest. So for instance, if like last video with that Ray Allen snipe challenge I was doing, I knew he would sell for 7,900 8k, but there was several times where there were 3 or 4 up for low 7,000s, 7,200 MT, and I knew that those ones would get bought out pretty quickly and that I could still sell for around 8k. Which kind of flows in well to the next thing I want to say is undercutting prices is risky if you're targeting 1 or 2 cards in particular, because if you undercut, so if I'd put up my Ray Allen for 6,800 MT, someone else will see my undercut and they might undercut that themselves, and so you can single-handedly actually make a card's price tank temporarily if you're not careful, which is hard and annoying if you're sitting on a filter for half an hour trying to make MT on it and you've just tanked the price yourself. So in order to make the most out of your snipes, just be aware of when to undercut and when not to. Obviously don't put your sale price way above what it's worth, but just be aware of those little fluctuations that are happening in the price throughout the day. Another really important thing to know is the active server times for sniping, because they follow similar trends to the price fluctuations. For example, evening time in the US, which is like mid to late morning here in Australia, that's one time where prices are increased and snipe filters are generally a lot more active. This then dies out by mid-afternoon in Australia, so a few hours later, which is nighttime in the US. Until around 10 PM in Australia, which is morning time in the US, when it picks up again for a few hours. During these peak times, there's likely to be a lot more snipes, prices will be higher, so you can capitalize on making MT if you're active during these times. And one last tip, which is yet to really settle down in 2K21, but there will be better days to sell things than others, as well as times during those days. So for those of you that were sniping a lot last year in 2K20, you'd remember that Sunday nights are always the best time to sell, as the market prices were all inflated, and for whatever reason that is. But yeah, Sunday night and Wednesday nights were really good nights to sell, and it was a seller's market. We're yet to really see that happen in 2K21, but I'm confident that as soon as I find out and hear anything and notice things, I'll be sure to let you guys know in future state of the market videos, because I think it's really important to maximize the MT you're making through your snipe filters. So that is it for this video, guys. State of the market episode 1 is done. I'm excited to see what this next week of 2K21 does on the auction house and what content we're getting, the snipe filters we'll be able to use. If you did like this video, let me know down below in the comment section. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We are on the road to 100 subs. We're a while away, but I'm confident you guys will get there. I do also stream several times a week over on Twitch. My link's in the description, as with all my other social medias. And I will catch you in the next one, guys.